It all began with a quiet, ordinary day at the International Space Observation Center. Scientists and engineers were busy at their consoles, watching streams of data from satellites orbiting distant stars. To the casual observer, it looked like routine work, scanning electromagnetic signals, recording cosmic radiation, tracking the movement of planets and asteroids. But for the experts in the room, every tiny signal had the potential to tell a story, sometimes a story that could change the fate of humanity. Dr. Elena Vargas, one of the senior astrophysicists, leaned forward over her screen, frowning at an unusual spike in the data. It was faint, almost imperceptible, but something about it made her heart race. The signal was patterned in a way that did not match any known cosmic phenomenon. It wasn't random noise, nor was it a natural astronomical event. It carried an urgency, a rhythm that seemed deliberate, almost intelligent. Elena called over her assistant, a young, eager researcher named Malik. Together, they traced the source of the signal, running simulations and cross-checking with existing star charts. The more they investigated, the clearer it became. This was no ordinary signal. It was coming from a planet located in a system far beyond the familiar star lanes, a system that had never been studied in detail. The coordinates were precise, and the signal itself seemed to carry layers of complexity, as if the sender was desperate to ensure someone, somewhere, would receive it. Malik's eyes widened as he realized the implications. "Dr. Vargas, this isn't just a random signal. Someone or something is trying to call us," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Word of the signal spread quickly throughout the center. Scientists gathered in groups, analyzing the data, debating what it could mean. Some suggested it might be a natural anomaly, rare combination of stellar winds and magnetic interference. But the evidence grew stronger by the hour that this was deliberate. Unlike random cosmic noise, the signal followed patterns, almost like a language. It repeated in cycles, with variations that hinted at emotion, urgency, and even fear. For those trained to recognize intelligence in data, it was unmistakable. This was a distress call. News of the discovery soon reached higher authorities, sparking a flurry of meetings in government offices and military command centers. Debates raged about the nature of the signal and the risks of responding. Some argued for caution, warning that contacting unknown civilizations could be dangerous. Others pushed for immediate action, reasoning that ignoring a plea for help could be catastrophic if it was genuine. In the midst of these discussions, one group's opinion carried more weight than any other: the Deathworlders, humanity's elite interstellar response force. Their history was legendary. Whenever humanity faced threats beyond Earth, whether in deep space exploration missions or conflicts on remote colonies, the Deathworlders had been the ones to intervene, always prepared for the most dangerous scenarios. Meanwhile, back at the observation center, Dr. Vargas and her team continued decoding the signal. Piece by piece, they discovered that it was not just a simple call for help, it was a plea for survival. The alien civilization, whoever they were, was under attack. Their world was being invaded by a force far more powerful than they could handle alone. There were mentions of cities being destroyed, populations being decimated, and a relentless enemy advancing with terrifying efficiency. As the details became clearer, the gravity of the situation struck everyone. This was no minor incident. This was a civilization on the brink of annihilation. The Deathworlders were immediately briefed. Their commanders listened intently as the scientists explained the origin of the signal, the urgency of the threat, and the stakes involved. For them, this was exactly the kind of mission they were trained for: a hostile environment, a civilization in danger, and an unknown enemy with advanced capabilities. While ordinary military units might hesitate, the Deathworlders approached the news with focus and determination. They understood that time was critical. Every moment lost could mean more lives destroyed, more cities reduced to rubble, and the complete collapse of an entire world. At the same time, public awareness of the signal was limited. Governments decided that revealing the discovery prematurely could cause panic. Yet, among the scientific community and the Deathworlders, a sense of anticipation and tension filled the air. The people working on the project knew that history was unfolding in front of them. They were the first humans to witness a real, desperate cry from another intelligent species. Elena Vargas often found herself staring at the screens late at night, wondering about the lives on that distant planet. Who were these beings? What did their cities look like? How advanced were they? And most importantly, could humanity reach them in time? As the analysis progressed, the signal itself seemed to intensify, almost as if the aliens sensed that someone was finally listening. It carried more data, more clues, and a subtle emotional undertone that made the scientists feel both awe and fear. The descriptions hinted at not just physical destruction, but the terror and helplessness of the population the aliens were sending. More than coordinates, they were sending a story of their suffering, a narrative that conveyed desperation in a way humans could comprehend. Each new transmission painted a vivid picture: homes burning, skies darkened by unknown machinery, and communities struggling to organize a defense against a superior enemy. The urgency to respond quickly became a central focus for the Their operations teams began strategizing. The fleet would need to travel vast distances, face unknown hazards, and potentially confront an enemy with unknown capabilities. Every decision had to be calculated. Failure was not an option. The first steps involved preparing their ships, gathering intelligence, and readying specialized equipment designed for extreme conditions. The Deathworlders trained for years for situations like this, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of responding to a civilization under immediate threat. Meanwhile, the scientists at the observation center continued their work tirelessly. They were not only decoding the signal but also trying to predict the enemy's movements and tactics. They ran simulations, analyzed patterns in the transmission, and even speculated on the alien technology. Despite the complexity and danger, a shared sense of purpose united them. Every person in that room understood that this mission was bigger than Earth itself. It was about extending humanity's hand to another world, about answering a call for help that no one else had even heard. Finally, after days of preparation and analysis, the decision was made. Humanity would respond. The Deathworlders would be deployed, and the aliens would not be left to face extinction alone. The fleet began assembling in secret, drawing from the most advanced ships and weapons humanity had developed. The mission plan was detailed and meticulously organized, anticipating every possible scenario. The scientists and military strategists worked hand in hand, knowing that failure could not be tolerated. The signal continued to pulse, a reminder of the lives depending on them. For the first time, humanity felt the weight of its role in the galaxy, not just as observers, but as protectors. The world beyond Earth was no longer distant. It had become urgent, real, and immediate. Every heartbeat, every calculation, and every preparation carried the hope of survival for an entire alien civilization. And as the Deathworlders finalized their plans, there was a shared understanding among all involved. History was about to be made, and humanity's courage would soon be tested in the vast, unforgiving expanse of space. The Deathworlders were unlike any other military force on Earth. While most armies and fleets were trained for terrestrial conflicts or routine space missions, the Deathworlders existed for only one purpose: to confront the most dangerous and unpredictable threats the galaxy had to offer. They were humanity's secret weapon, a team forged from the planet's toughest soldiers, scientists, and engineers, trained to operate in extreme conditions that would kill ordinary humans without hesitation. Their reputation alone was enough to make hostile alien forces tremble, and yet their most defining quality was not fear, it was precision, discipline, and unshakable resolve. Once the decision was made to respond to the alien SOS, preparations for deployment began immediately. Command centers buzzed with activity, a hive of coordinated efforts that seemed almost chaotic to outsiders but followed a rhythm only the Deathworlders understood. Ships that had been lying in dry docks for years were hurriedly reactivated, tested, and armed to the teeth. Weapons systems were calibrated with meticulous care, and every piece of armor, every device, and every interface was checked multiple times. These soldiers were not just warriors, they were technicians, strategists, and survival experts, capable of adapting to threats that could not even be predicted. The leaders of the Deathworlders held intensive briefings with the teams assigned for this mission. Screens displayed intercepted alien transmissions, topographical maps of the distant planet, and intelligence on the attacking enemy forces. Although much about the situation remained unknown, there was enough evidence to show the scale of the danger. An organized, technologically advanced enemy was sweeping across the alien world, leaving destruction in its path. The aliens themselves were fighting desperately, but their defenses were crumbling. The Deathworlders' commanders emphasized the stakes. Failure was not merely a loss for the aliens, it could mark the first time humanity had allowed a civilization to be completely wiped out while knowing the truth. Soldiers themselves were a study in focus and intensity. Each Deathworlder had undergone years of training in environments designed to mimic extreme alien conditions: freezing temperatures, toxic atmospheres, low-gravity zones, and combat simulations against enemies designed to imitate extraterrestrial species. They knew that in space, conventional tactics would not be enough. They trained with experimental weapons, adaptive armor systems, and AI-driven battlefield strategies. But more importantly, they had been conditioned to make split-second decisions in life-or-death situations, to stay calm when everything around them fell into chaos. This mission would test everything they had learned. While the military prepared, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly alongside the soldiers. The alien SOS contained fragments of technology and language that hinted at an advanced civilization. Understanding their technology was crucial. Could the Deathworlders use this knowledge to anticipate enemy tactics? Could they protect the aliens effectively without causing unintentional damage? Every question mattered. Teams analyzed the alien transmissions down to the smallest detail, identifying patterns, technological signatures, and possible weak points in the enemy forces. Their findings informed the strategic deployment plan, ensuring that when the Deathworlders arrived, they would strike with maximum efficiency. As days turned into nights, the tension in the operations center grew. The Deathworlders themselves remained outwardly calm, but the weight of responsibility was evident in subtle ways: a tightened jaw, a focused gaze, hands that never rested for long. They underwent final physical and psychological tests to ensure readiness. Leaders held one-on-one briefings with every squad, explaining mission parameters, objectives, and contingencies. Each soldier knew the risk of failure, but they also knew the importance of success. They were at the hand of humanity, reaching out to save a world they had never seen, a civilization they had never met, and yet whose survival depended entirely on them. The fleet that would carry them to the distant planet was a marvel of human engineering, sleek, powerful, and equipped with advanced propulsion systems capable of interstellar travel. The ships were also equipped with cutting-edge defensive and offensive technology. Every vessel carried specialized weaponry, shields, drones, and reconnaissance units designed for alien environments. Logistics teams worked around the clock to ensure that supplies, fuel, and medical equipment were not only sufficient but optimized for unforeseen challenges. Even the smallest details, such as oxygen ratios, temperature control, and radiation shielding, were scrutinized. The Deathworlders understood that even the tiniest oversight could cost lives once they reached the alien world. Training simulations reached their peak in the final days before departure. The soldiers were put through scenarios that mirrored the intelligence gathered from the SOS, urban combat in alien cities, rescue operations under bombardment, and encounters with enemy forces possessing unknown capabilities. The simulations were harsh, pushing the Deathworlders to their physical and mental limits. But each challenge was essential preparation for the reality they would face. Every failure in simulation became a lesson. Every success reinforced the confidence that they were capable of overcoming impossible odds. Amid all this preparation, the Deathworlders also focused on diplomacy and communication. The aliens were frightened, disoriented, and desperate. Establishing trust was as important as winning battles. Teams studied alien languages, gestures, and cultural patterns inferred from the SOS. Every detail, no matter how small, was critical. Miscommunication could lead to panic, chaos, or even hostility. The Deathworlders understood that while they were warriors, they were also representatives of humanity, carrying with them not just weapons but a promise of aid and protection. As the day of departure approached, the operation reached a tense climax. Ships were fueled and positioned, weapons were armed, and teams took final mental preparations. Families of the Deathworlders were informed in private, knowing the risks their loved ones faced. The soldiers themselves rarely spoke of fear, but there was a silent understanding among them. This mission could be more dangerous than anything they had ever faced, yet there was also pride, determination, and a sense of purpose that bound them together. They were about to enter a conflict far beyond Earth, a mission that would test the very limits of human courage and skill. In the final hours before launch, the Deathworlders gathered for a last briefing. Leaders addressed the teams, emphasizing strategy, objectives, and contingency plans. Every soldier listened intently, memorizing every detail. The room was quiet except for the hum of machinery and the occasional rustle of equipment. Outside, the stars stretched infinitely, a reminder of the vastness of space and the unknown dangers awaiting them. And yet, within that quiet room, there was resolve. Humanity's best had been chosen, and they were ready to answer a call that few even knew existed. The moment of departure arrived. One by one, ships powered up, engines igniting with controlled precision. The Deathworlders settled into their stations, each movement purposeful, each command executed flawlessly. As the fleet lifted off, leaving Earth's atmosphere behind, the magnitude of their mission became real. They were no longer observers of the universe, they were active participants in its unfolding drama. Their destination was distant, unknown, and fraught with danger, but the resolve of the Deathworlders was unwavering. They carried with them the hopes of a civilization they had never met, the promise of intervention, and the skill and courage to face whatever awaited them as they entered the vast expanse of interstellar space. The SOS signal continued to pulse faintly across light years, a reminder of the urgency that drove every calculation, every preparation, and every heartbeat of the Deathworld. They had left their world behind, fully committed to a mission that would test humanity's strength, intelligence, and courage. In that moment, the soldiers and scientists alike understood the significance of their actions. This was not just a rescue mission. It was a statement. When another civilization calls for help, humanity answers, and the Deathworlders would ensure that no plea for survival would ever go unanswered. The journey had only just begun, but the preparation, planning, and unwavering dedication of the Deathworlders ensured that when the time came, they would be ready to confront the enemy, protect the helpless, and prove that humanity's reach extended far beyond the stars. Every system checked, every strategy refined, every soldier trained and ready, it all culminated in this mission. The stage was set, the fleet was moving, and the universe was about to witness what it meant when humanity's elite warriors responded to a call for help. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before the Deathworlders like an endless ocean. Stars twinkled in the distance, silent witnesses to their journey. And yet between those points of light lay dangers that no human had ever faced before. The fleet, sleek and powerful, moved with precise coordination, each ship a small world of activity and purpose. Inside, the Deathworlders were fully immersed in their mission, knowing that every light year they traveled brought them closer to a world teetering on the brink of destruction. There was no room for error. One wrong calculation, one mechanical failure, could turn the voyage into a disaster before they ever reached the alien planet. From the very first hour of their journey, challenges began to appear. Space, though seemingly empty, was full of hazards. Asteroid belts twisted and shifted unpredictably, tiny fragments traveling at unimaginable speeds. The fleet's sensors constantly scanned for debris, calculating trajectories and adjusting flight paths with incredible precision. Even the smallest mistake could puncture a ship's hull, sending astronauts into the void. Despite their advanced technology, the Deathworlders treated every obstacle with respect, understanding that survival depended not just on skill but on vigilance, foresight, and careful planning. As the fleet moved further into uncharted territory, the crew faced another danger: rogue comets. These massive ice and rock formations hurtled across space, following erratic orbits that defied prediction. The Deathworlders' navigation teams worked tirelessly, plotting courses that would allow the fleet to pass safely while maintaining maximum speed. Every maneuver required split-second timing and precise coordination between ships. The tension on the bridge of each vessel was palpable. Soldiers and pilots alike were aware that even a single misstep could have catastrophic consequences. Yet they remained calm, disciplined, and focused. The journey was long, measured in light, but the Deathworlders knew that time was critical. The aliens' SOS had conveyed a sense of urgency, and intelligence reports suggested that every hour that passed could mean more destruction, more lives lost. During the voyage, soldiers maintained rigorous schedules of training, drills, and preparation. They practiced combat scenarios, refined tactics, and reviewed the alien transmissions again and again. Each team studied possible outcomes, discussing contingencies and alternative strategies. Their discipline was unmatched, and their commitment absolute. Every moment was an investment in the success of the mission and the survival of the alien civilization they had sworn to protect. Life aboard the ships was far from comfortable. Long hours, artificial lighting, and recycled air tested both physical endurance and mental resilience. Sleep schedules were carefully managed to prevent fatigue. But even so, the monotony and isolation of space weighed heavily on everyone. Soldiers spent time in small personal quarters, meditating, reviewing mission plans, or simply trying to rest. Scientists monitored the alien signals tirelessly, decoding new transmissions and extracting every piece of information that could aid in the upcoming operation. Engineers maintained the ships, ensuring propulsion systems, life support, and weapons remained fully functional. Despite the relentless strain of interstellar travel, every task, no matter how small, contributed to the larger goal: arriving at the alien planet, prepared to act with precision and efficiency. The SOS signal remained a constant presence, pulsing faintly across the distances of space. Even though the alien world was still far away, the urgency of their plight resonated with every member of the fleet. Soldiers often gathered around monitors to watch the decoded transmissions, glimpsing scenes of devastation and fear. Images of burning cities, collapsing structures, and desperate survivors were conveyed in abstract patterns, interpreted through sophisticated AI decoding systems. Each revelation added weight to the mission, reminding the Deathworlders of why they had trained so rigorously and why failure was not an option. Communication between ships was another challenge. The vast distances of interstellar space caused delays in signals, making real-time coordination difficult. To overcome this, the Deathworlders relied on advanced AI systems capable of predicting movements, adjusting tactics, and maintaining formation even when communication lagged. Despite the technology, the human element remained critical. Commanders constantly analyzed data, made decisions, and ensured that every maneuver was executed flawlessly. The combination of human judgment and artificial intelligence allowed the fleet to navigate dangerous regions of space with remarkable efficiency, minimizing risk while maintaining speed. As the fleet approached areas of space less charted and more volatile, the crew faced anomalies that no training could fully prepare them for. Regions of unstable gravity and fluctuating electromagnetic fields disrupted sensors and navigation systems. Some ships experienced temporary system failures, forcing teams to improvise solutions on the fly. Soldiers and engineers worked together, using creativity, experience, and teamwork to overcome each obstacle. It was a reminder that space was unpredictable, that even the most advanced technology could not eliminate every risk, and that adaptability was as important as strength and firepower. Throughout the journey, the human side of the Deathworlders was never far from view. Soldiers formed bonds with each other, sharing stories, memories, and motivations. Some spoke of loved ones waiting on Earth, others of personal dreams and ambitions. Yet all understood the unique honor and responsibility of their mission. These conversations, though brief and often interrupted by duty, fostered camaraderie and strengthened morale. Even in the vast emptiness of space, humanity remained at the center of their purpose, protecting life, demonstrating courage, and responding to a call for help that transcended worlds. Despite the hardships, moments of awe reminded the Deathworlders why they were part of something extraordinary. They watched supernova erupt in brilliant explosions of color, saw distant galaxies rotate in elegant spirals, and observed cosmic phenomena that few humans would ever witness. These glimpses of the universe's majesty contrasted sharply with the violence awaiting them on the alien planet, yet they reinforced the significance of their mission. The universe was vast and often indifferent, but the actions of the Deathworlders were a testament to the difference humanity could make. Even in the most remote and dangerous corners of existence, that as days turned into weeks, the fleet grew closer to its destination. The anticipation became almost tangible. Soldiers reviewed combat plans repeatedly, considering the challenges they might face. Enemy forces far more advanced than anything humanity had encountered, unfamiliar terrain, and a population that was both frightened and desperate. The Deathworlders understood that victory would require more than brute force. It would require strategy, precision, and an understanding of both the aliens and their enemies. Every simulation, every drill, and every calculated maneuver during the journey was preparation for the complex realities awaiting them. The fleet's AI systems continued to analyze the revealing more details about the aliens' plight. Signals indicated areas where populations were concentrated, regions where enemy forces were most aggressive, and zones that were most vulnerable to attack. The Deathworlders used this information to refine their strategies, planning both rescue operations and counterattacks. It was meticulous work, combining military strategy, scientific analysis, and the intuition that only experienced soldiers could bring. Each decision was weighed carefully, knowing that mistakes could result in catastrophic consequences for both humans and aliens. The psychological challenges of the journey were as real as the physical ones. Soldiers faced the stress of prolonged isolation, constant vigilance, and the knowledge that failure could mean the end for an entire civilization. Commanders held regular briefings to address morale, provide updates, and reinforce the mission's importance. Small routines, meals, training, personal time became anchors in an otherwise uncertain environment. The Deathworlders relied on each other for support, drawing strength from camaraderie, shared purpose, and the unshakable belief that they were humanity's finest, and that they could not fail. That as the alien planet drew closer, the urgency of the situation intensified. The SOS signals, now clearer than ever, revealed scenes of destruction escalating. Cities were being consumed by fire, defenses were crumbling, and survivors were scattered, hiding in fear. Every mile the fleet traveled underscored the stakes of the mission. They were racing not just against distance, but against time itself. The Deathworlders' focus sharpened, and the entire fleet moved with a singular purpose. The journey had been long and perilous, but it had also forged a team capable of responding to any challenge. They were ready, finally. After navigating countless hazards and overcoming unprecedented challenges, the fleet neared the alien system. The planet itself loomed ahead, a distant orb of promise and peril. The Deathworlders prepared for the final phase of their journey, running last-minute checks on weapons, armor, and communication systems. Soldiers reviewed tactical plans one last time, while scientists ensured that every piece of intelligence gathered from the SOS had been fully integrated into the mission strategy. The weight of responsibility was immense, but the Deathworlders were ready to act. Every member of the fleet knew that the moment of truth was approaching. The alien civilization, which had sent out a desperate plea across light years, depended entirely on their arrival. The journey through space had tested every skill, every ounce of endurance, and every measure of courage the Deathworlders possessed. Now, the time had come to transform preparation into action. They were no longer travelers crossing the void. They were the vanguard of humanity, sent to protect life, confront danger, and answer a call for help that would echo across the galaxy. As the fleet closed in on the planet, the signal pulsed with renewed intensity. It was both a warning and a plea, a reminder of the urgency and gravity of the mission. Every Deathworlder felt it deeply. The stakes were higher than ever, the enemy stronger than expected, and the lives of an entire civilization hanging in the balance. And yet, amid the tension and uncertainty, there was confidence, discipline, and a shared resolve that no obstacle could shake. The Deathworlders had trained, prepared, and journeyed through the most dangerous regions of space. Now, they were ready to confront the reality waiting on the alien world below. The stage was set for the next phase. The journey through the stars had honed the Deathworlders' skills, forged unbreakable bonds, and prepared them for the trials ahead. Every obstacle they had overcome, every simulation, every challenge, had led to this moment. And as the fleet prepared to enter orbit around the alien planet, one truth was clear. Humanity had arrived not as spectators, but as active participants in a story of survival, courage, and interstellar heroism. The next chapter would be written in the skies above a world in peril, and the Deathworlders were ready to answer the call. The alien planet emerged from the darkness of space like a jewel caught between stars, yet there was nothing peaceful about it. From orbit, the Deathworlders could see smoke rising from countless points across the surface, glowing fires marking cities reduced to rubble. The SOS signals had only hinted at this scale of destruction. Nothing could have truly prepared them for it. Towers that might once have reached the sky now lay twisted and broken. Highways were scorched and cracked, and massive craters dotted the landscape where weapons had struck with devastating force. The scene was one of chaos and terror, and yet, amidst the destruction, the Deathworlders saw something that inspired both caution and resolve. Life still struggled to survive. Commanders of the fleet immediately began organizing their response. Satellite imagery and the decoded SOS provided enough information to identify areas where alien survivors were concentrated. Teams of soldiers prepared to deploy in waves, carefully coordinated to avoid detection by enemy forces while maximizing the chance of saving civilians. The Deathworlders knew that the aliens were terrified and disoriented. Establishing trust would be just as important as using firepower. Any misstep could provoke panic, and panic on the alien world could lead to unnecessary casualties. Every calculation, every maneuver, had to account for the fragile human-alien dynamic. As the first ships descended into the planet's atmosphere, the Deathworlders observed the scale of the enemy's advance. Swarms of attack drones and heavily armed spacecraft patrolled the skies, launching strikes on remaining settlements. The planet's surface seemed alive with conflict. Massive machines moved like predators, cutting through buildings, while alien defenders struggled to mount even minimal resistance. The Deathworlders were trained for scenarios like this, yet even they could not ignore the overwhelming odds. It was a battlefield unlike any they had ever faced, and yet they moved with precision, knowing that hesitation could cost countless lives. Initial contact with the alien survivors was tense and delicate. The aliens were fragile in appearance but intelligent, their expressions a mix of fear and hope. Communication was challenging. Their language was unlike any Earth tongue, composed of sounds and visual signals that took careful decoding. The Deathworlders relied on rapid translation algorithms to convey messages, introducing themselves as allies and promising protection. Some aliens hesitated, unsure if the newcomers were friend or foe, while others clung desperately to the humans, relief and terror intertwined. These moments underscored the importance of empathy, diplomacy, and trust in addition to combat prowess. The first rescue missions began with surgical precision. Small squads of Deathworlders were dropped near concentration zones of survivors, their movement stealthy to avoid alerting the enemy. Using advanced scanning equipment, they located civilians trapped under rubble, in collapsed buildings, or hiding in open fields. Every extraction required careful planning. Enemy patrols and automated defense systems threatened to strike at any moment. The Deathworlders moved swiftly, securing perimeters, evacuating survivors, and coordinating safe corridors for transport to larger extraction points. Their expertise and discipline allowed them to accomplish feats that would have been impossible for ordinary soldiers, saving hundreds even in the first hours of deployment. Meanwhile, the fleet provided support from orbit. Long-range weapons targeted enemy formations and supply lines with pinpoint accuracy, avoiding civilian areas while disrupting the attackers' organization. Drones and reconnaissance units scanned the battlefield, feeding real-time intelligence to ground teams. Every move was part of a larger strategy to dismantle the enemy's capability to wage war while protecting the aliens whose lives were on the line. The Deathworlders' combination of technology, strategy, and battlefield intuition made them a force unmatched by anything the attackers had anticipated. Even as victories accumulated, the danger was ever present. Enemy forces adapted quickly, deploying new machines and reorganizing their attacks. The Deathworlders had to think on their feet, responding to unexpected assaults and devising countermeasures in real. Battles erupted in urban ruins, open plains, and dense alien forests, each environment presenting unique challenges. Soldiers had to navigate collapsing buildings, treacherous terrain, and hostile technology while keeping the alien civilians safe. Their training, discipline, and coordination allowed them to succeed where lesser forces would have faltered, turning the tide even in moments that seemed impossible. During these operations, the Deathworlders observed something extraordinary: the resilience of the alien population. Despite fear, injury, and loss, the survivors demonstrated intelligence, resourcefulness, and bravery. They assisted in rescue efforts, provided guidance about enemy positions, and even fought back when given the chance. The humans and aliens began to form a bond based on mutual trust and respect, a collaboration that strengthened both groups. This alliance was fragile but crucial. The Deathworlders understood that success depended not only on defeating the enemy but also on empowering the survivors to endure and rebuild. On one particularly harrowing mission, a squad of Deathworlders was tasked with rescuing a group of civilians trapped in a partially collapsed city. The buildings around them were unstable, the enemy was nearby, and time was running out. Soldiers used cutting-edge equipment to stabilize structures, extract the injured, and establish safe zones. Communication with orbiting command ensured that support would arrive if needed. Every second mattered. As the squad navigated the dangerous streets, they encountered resistance from enemy drones, forcing intense skirmishes. Despite the peril, they remained focused, saving the trapped civilians and ensuring that no lives were lost in the process. The battle for the alien planet was not only physical but also psychological. The attackers sought to terrorize the population, while the Deathworlders worked to instill hope. Seeing the humans arrive, willing to risk everything to save them, gave the aliens renewed courage. They began to fight more effectively, coordinating with the Deathworlders to repel enemy advances. Trust grew as the humans demonstrated their commitment, showing that they were not conquerors, but allies. Each successful operation reinforced the belief that survival was possible, and that the Deathworlders' presence could turn the tide of the conflict as the day progressed. It became clear that the Deathworlders' strategy was working. Enemy forces, confident in their technological superiority, were being systematically weakened. Supply lines were cut, reinforcements intercepted, and key positions neutralized. Yet the humans remained vigilant. Every victory brought new challenges. As the enemy adapted and counterattacked in unpredictable ways, the Deathworlders anticipated these shifts, using both their advanced technology and battlefield experience to stay one step ahead. Their coordination between ground operations and orbital support created a synergy that allowed them to handle multiple crises simultaneously, protecting civilians while dismantling enemy capabilities. Throughout the chaos, acts of heroism stood out. Soldiers risked their lives to save strangers. Scientists adapted alien technology to provide tactical advantages, and teams coordinated complex rescues under fire. Even the aliens, inspired by the Deathworlders, displayed bravery that went beyond instinct. The combination of human skill and alien cooperation created a force capable of confronting an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. The battlefield, once a place of fear and despair, began to show glimmers of hope. Survivors were not merely being saved, they were learning that they had allies, that humanity's reach could protect them, and that together, they could resist annihilation. By the end of the first full day of operations, the Deathworlders had achieved remarkable results. Hundreds of civilians had been rescued, strategic enemy positions were disrupted, and the survivors had begun to organize themselves under human guidance. The enemy, though formidable, had been forced to adapt to a level of resistance they had not anticipated. The Deathworlders had demonstrated not only superior combat ability but also the ability to coordinate complex operations under extreme pressure. Their arrival had shifted the balance of power on the planet, giving hope to those who had thought all was lost as night fell over the alien world. The Deathworlders paused to assess their progress. Fires still burned, and dangers remained, but the first steps toward victory were clear. Commanders held meetings to plan the next phase of operations, ensuring that every team knew their objectives and the importance of minimizing civilian risk. Soldiers took moments to rest, repair equipment, and prepare for the challenges that tomorrow would bring. Even in the midst of exhaustion, there was a sense of purpose, pride, and determination. The Deathworlders knew that the enemy would continue to fight, but they also knew that the human presence had become a beacon of hope, a force that could not be ignored. On that moment, the significance of their mission became fully clear. The Deathworlders were not just fighting to repel an attack, they were defending life itself. Their actions demonstrated that humanity could rise to meet challenges on a cosmic scale, that courage, skill, and compassion could make a difference even in the darkest circumstances. For the aliens, the arrival of the Deathworlders was nothing short of miraculous, a tangible proof that someone had heard their cries and was willing to act. As the night deepened, the SOS signals continued to pulse faintly across space, a reminder of the urgency and gravity of the situation. The Deathworlders had arrived, and their presence had begun to change the fate of an entire civilization. The battle was far from over, but the first contact had been made. Trust had been established, and hope had been restored. Humanity's elite warriors had proven that they could operate not only as soldiers but as saviors, allies, and symbols of resilience in a galaxy that often seemed indifferent to life. The alien planet, once on the brink of destruction, now had a chance to survive. Thanks to the courage, precision, and unwavering dedication of the Death, they had arrived when it mattered most, acted with skill and empathy, and laid the groundwork for a broader alliance between humans and aliens. As the first phase of the mission drew to a close, everyone involved understood one thing clearly: the Deathworlders had made a difference, and the universe had taken notice. The alien world had endured days of relentless attacks, and yet, as dawn broke across its scarred landscape, the Deathworlders stood ready. Their presence had already shifted the balance of power, but the final phase of the mission demanded more than strategy and skill. It demanded courage, endurance, and flawless coordination. Every soldier knew that the outcome of this battle would not only determine the survival of the alien civilization but would also solidify humanity's reputation across the stars. They had come as responders to a distress call, but they were determined to leave as conquerors of chaos, defenders of life, and architects of a new alliance. From orbit, the fleet monitored enemy movements. Sensors detected regrouping forces, the remaining drones and war machines attempting to regain control of the planet's key cities and strategic locations. The Deathworlders' commanders quickly analyzed the intelligence, coordinating ground and orbital operations to exploit weaknesses and cut off enemy supply lines. Orbital bombardments were calculated with precision, neutralizing enemy positions while ensuring that alien civilians were not harmed. The technology at their disposal was unparalleled, but so too was their discipline. Every action, every strike, and every deployment had been rehearsed, refined, and executed with exacting precision. On the ground, squads of Deathworlders advanced through cities and open terrain, moving with fluid efficiency. They had mapped enemy positions using intelligence gathered from both the SOS signals and ongoing reconnaissance, anticipating ambushes and deploying countermeasures before attacks could occur. Alien civilians, inspired by the human warriors, began assisting in tactical operations, warning of enemy positions, guiding rescue teams, and even taking part in defensive efforts. The collaboration was extraordinary, a bond forged in the urgency of survival, strengthened by mutual respect and the shared goal of defeating a relentless adversary. The first major engagement of the day was in what had once been a thriving urban center. Enemy war machines had turned the city into a fortress of steel and fire. The Deathworlders approached cautiously, deploying drones and reconnaissance units to identify hazards and determine structural stability. Soldiers moved in teams, clearing streets methodically, neutralizing traps, and protecting the civilians who were still trapped amidst the ruins. Skirmishes erupted frequently, the sound of plasma weapons and the hum of advanced machinery echoing across the deserted avenues. Despite the chaos, the Deathworlders maintained order, their training and discipline ensuring that every action served the larger mission. The aliens themselves began to show signs of courage and ingenuity. Some formed small defense units, assisting the humans in strategic strikes against enemy installations. Others helped locate and evacuate injured civilians. The Deathworlders encouraged these efforts, recognizing that empowering the survivors was as important as defeating the enemy. Trust grew with every successful mission, and the aliens began to view humanity not just as protectors but as partners. This alliance, forged in the fires of battle, would become a cornerstone of the post-conflict rebuilding process. The battle raged across multiple fronts simultaneously. While some squads cleared urban centers, others moved to protect vital infrastructure, ensuring that alien communications, energy sources, and medical facilities were preserved. Every action was synchronized, creating a network of resistance that the enemy could not easily penetrate. The Deathworlders combined brute force with tactical intelligence, using their advanced technology to outmaneuver the attackers while minimizing civilian risk. Their ability to adapt to rapidly changing situations was crucial, allowing them to respond to unexpected attacks without losing momentum. Then one particularly intense encounter. A squad was tasked with neutralizing a heavily fortified enemy outpost controlling drones and automated turrets. The facility was heavily guarded, its defenses designed to repel even the most sophisticated forces. Using a combination of stealth, hacking, and direct assault, the Deathworlders infiltrated the outpost. Some soldiers disabled security systems, others engaged enemy units head-on, and a specialized team secured the civilians trapped inside. The operation required split-second decision-making, precise coordination, and nerves of steel. By the time the outpost was secured, the enemy forces were disoriented, their morale shattered, and the civilians were safe. Throughout the day, similar operations unfolded across the planet. Each success weakened the enemy's grip, disrupted their coordination, and bolstered the confidence of the alien population. The Deathworlders' presence had become both a shield and a symbol of hope. Where once the aliens had hidden in fear, now they began to move with purpose, taking part in defense efforts, relaying critical intelligence, and participating in coordinated strikes against the invaders. The synergy between humans and aliens proved decisive. It was not merely technology that won battles, but trust, cooperation, and shared courage. As evening approached, the enemy forces launched a final, desperate counterattack, attempting to reclaim lost territory. Massive war machines converged on key cities, while drones swarmed the outskirts in an effort to scatter the survivors. The Deathworlders anticipated the assault, using orbital support, long-range strikes, and coordinated ground defenses. They created a layered resistance that the attackers could not penetrate. Soldiers held their positions under heavy fire, moving with fluid precision to protect civilians, neutralize threats, and maintain momentum. The battle reached its climax as the combined efforts of humans and aliens overwhelmed the enemy, forcing a retreat and ensuring that key strongholds were secured by nightfall. The planet was quiet for the first time in days. Fires still burned in scattered areas, but the main centers of civilian population were secure. The enemy had been decisively defeated, their organized assault broken, and their morale shattered. The Deathworlders, though exhausted, knew that the mission had been a success. Hundreds of lives had been saved. The alien population had gained the confidence to defend themselves in the future, and humanity had demonstrated its capability to act decisively on a galactic scale. Amid the aftermath, acts of heroism and sacrifice were everywhere. Soldiers had risked their lives repeatedly. Engineers had repaired critical systems under fire, and scientists had ensured that every strategic decision was informed by intelligence. The aliens, inspired and grateful, began to rebuild, working alongside humans to stabilize cities, restore communications, and provide care for the injured. Bonds formed in the heat of battle had become permanent, creating alliances that would endure long after the immediate threat had passed. Commanders of the Deathworlders took stock of their achievements, coordinating efforts to ensure that the survivors were organized and protected. Communication networks were restored, food and medical supplies distributed, and remaining enemy threats neutralized. The planet's population, once paralyzed by fear, began to reclaim their lives, bolstered by the knowledge that they had allies who would not abandon them. The Deathworlders' influence extended beyond military success. They had instilled hope, confidence, and resilience in a population that had faced near total annihilation. In the final moments of the mission, the Deathworlders gathered with the alien leaders to formalize their alliance. Though languages and cultures differed, the intent was clear. Humanity had arrived when help was needed most, and the aliens were willing to stand with them as partners. Plans for long-term cooperation were laid out, including shared defense strategies, technological exchange, and mutual support in the event of future threats. The bond forged in the crucible of battle would become the foundation of a lasting partnership, proving that even across vast distances and diverse civilizations, cooperation and courage could overcome the most formidable challenges. As the Deathworlders prepared to leave the planet, there was a profound sense of accomplishment. Their mission had been perilous, the odds overwhelming. Yet through discipline, strategy, and unwavering commitment, they had succeeded. That alien civilization was no longer on the brink of extinction. It had survived and gained the tools, knowledge, and confidence to endure future threats. Humanity's elite warriors had demonstrated that when called upon they could respond with precision, power, and compassion. Their actions would be remembered by the alien survivors for generations, a story of bravery and hope passed down as a legend. The return journey to Earth was quieter but no less significant. The Deathworlders reflected on the challenges they had overcome, the lives they had saved, and the lessons they had learned. Each member of the fleet understood that their efforts had not only altered the fate of one civilization but had also demonstrated humanity's role in the wider galaxy. They had shown that human ingenuity, courage, and determination could protect life across the stars, and that even in the face of overwhelming danger, hope and action could prevail. As the fleet moved through the stars, the alien civilization began rebuilding under its own strength. Guided by the strategies and support left by the Death, cities rose again from the ashes. Defenses were strengthened, and communities began to heal. The aliens would never forget the humans who had arrived in their moment of desperation, who had fought alongside them, and who had ensured their survival. Humanity had left an indelible mark, not as conquerors, but as saviors, allies, and symbols of hope. The mission complete, the Deathworlders returned home, their reputation further cemented as humanity's most elite and reliable force. Their journey had proven that the reach of human courage extended far beyond Earth, that when life called for help, humanity would answer, and that even the most desperate SOS signals could find a response from those willing to face unimaginable danger. In every story told by the rescued aliens, the Deathworlders were immortalized not just as warriors, but as guardians, a reminder that when called upon, humanity could rise to protect life across the galaxy.